Once upon a time, long before he was a famous name known all over the world, Donald Trump was just a young boy growing up in a big house in Queens, New York. His story really begins with his father, Fred Trump. Fred was a very successful builder. He was the son of immigrants from Germany and had worked incredibly hard his whole life to build a real estate empire. He started his company, E. Trump & Son, and became very wealthy by building homes for families in the outer boroughs of New York City. He knew how to find good deals, how to manage big projects, and how to make money in a tough business. Fred believed that to succeed, you had to be strong and you had to win. Fred Trump was the most important influence in his son's life. He taught Donald many lessons, not just about business, but about how to see the world. One of the most important lessons was to always be a killer, a word he used to mean a tough and relentless competitor. He did not believe in showing weakness. He wanted his children, especially Donald, to be fighters who never gave up. Donald watched his father work every day. He saw how Fred dealt with people, how he negotiated deals, and how he always pushed to be the best. These early experiences shaped Donald's view of success. He learned that business was a battlefield where only the strongest survived. The Trump family lived in a large 23-room house, a symbol of Fred's success. But life inside was not always easy. Donald was known for being an energetic and sometimes aggressive child. He was competitive with his siblings and wanted to be the center of attention. He learned from his father that being tough was a good thing. This attitude sometimes got him into trouble. He was full of energy and didn't always follow the rules. Fred saw this aggressive spirit in his son. He worried that Donald's energy needed more direction and discipline. He decided that a normal school was not the right place for a boy with such a strong personality and a desire to always be in charge. So, Fred made a decision that would change Donald's life forever. He decided to send his son away to a special kind of school. It was a place that would take Donald's raw energy and try to shape it into something more focused. This decision was not just about education. It was about molding his character. Fred believed that if Donald could learn to channel his ambition and his competitive nature in a structured environment, he could become even more successful than his father. This was the next important step in the making of Donald Trump, a step that would take him out of the family home and into a world of uniforms, rules, and intense competition. When Donald was 13 years old, his father sent him to the New York Military Academy. This was a boarding school where students wore uniforms, marched in formation, and lived a very structured life. It was a big change from his comfortable home in Queens. Fred Trump hoped the school's strict environment would teach his son discipline and respect for authority. For a boy known for being boisterous and sometimes rebellious, it was a challenging new world. The academy was designed to turn boys into leaders, and it emphasized order, physical fitness, and competition. For Donald, it was a place where he could test his strength and his will to win against others. At first, it might have seemed like a punishment, but Donald Trump quickly learned to thrive at the military academy. He discovered that he liked the competitive atmosphere. He was good at sports, especially baseball, and he enjoyed being part of a team where winning was the main goal. The school provided an outlet for his aggressive energy. Instead of getting into trouble, he could channel his drive into becoming a leader among his peers. He learned to follow orders, but he also learned how to give them. The academy taught him that to lead, you had to project confidence and strength, ideas that his father had already taught him. His time at the academy was very successful. He became a popular student and was even named Ladies' Man in his senior yearbook, showing that he had a charismatic and outgoing personality even as a teenager. He rose through the student ranks and became a captain, a position of leadership. He credited the school with teaching him how to survive in a competitive world. It was here that he learned to organize people and to focus his energy on achieving a specific goal. The discipline he learned was not about becoming quiet or obedient, but about learning how to use his powerful personality to get what he wanted. When he graduated from the New York Military Academy in 1964, Donald Trump was a different person. He was more polished, more focused, and more confident than the boy who had arrived 5 years earlier. The school had taken his father's lessons about being a killer and given him a framework for how to apply them. He had learned to live in a tough environment and come out on top. This experience reinforced his belief that life is a series of battles, and that the key to success is to be stronger and smarter than your opponents. The military academy did not tame his ambition. It sharpened it, preparing him for the even bigger challenges that lay ahead. After graduating from military school, Donald Trump's journey into the world of business began with his college education. He first attended Fordham University in the Bronx for 2 years. This was a good school. But for someone with his level of ambition, it was not enough. Donald had his sights set on something bigger. He wanted to attend one of the best business schools in the country. He knew that to make a name for himself in the competitive world of New York City real estate, he needed the best education and the best credentials. He wanted to learn about finance, deal-making, and the theories behind building great wealth. So, Donald made a bold move. He applied to transfer to the prestigious Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Getting into Wharton was very difficult, but he succeeded. This was a major step up. At Wharton, he was surrounded by some of the brightest and most ambitious young people in the country. He studied economics and real estate, learning the technical side of the business that his father had mastered through experience. He learned about market trends, financial statements, and the complex art of negotiating large-scale deals. This formal education gave him a new set of tools to use in his future career. After graduating from Wharton in 1968 with a degree in economics, Donald Trump was ready to join the family business. He returned to New York and started working alongside his father at E. Trump & Son. His father gave him what he called a 3-year apprenticeship. During this time, Donald didn't just sit in an office. He went out to the construction sites and learned the business from the ground up. He worked on his father's housing projects in Brooklyn and Queens, dealing with tenants, contractors, and city officials. He saw firsthand the hard work it took to manage properties and keep them profitable. This period was a crucial learning experience. Even though he came from a wealthy family, his father made sure he understood the value of hard work. Donald learned practical lessons that he could never have learned in a classroom. He saw how to turn around an unprofitable apartment complex and make it successful. This experience in the outer boroughs taught him the nuts and bolts of the real estate industry. But Donald's dreams were much bigger than Brooklyn and Queens. He was looking across the river to the glittering island of Manhattan, where the biggest deals were made and the biggest fortunes were won. He was ready to take his father's empire to a whole new level. After his 3-year apprenticeship under his father, Donald Trump was made president of the family company. He was young, ambitious, and full of new ideas. One of his first and most important decisions was to change the company's name. The old name, E. Trump & Son, sounded traditional, and was tied to his father's work in the outer boroughs. Donald wanted a name that was modern, powerful, and glamorous. He wanted a name that would be associated with luxury and success in Manhattan. So, he rebranded the company as the Trump Organization. This was more than just a name change. It was a statement of his ambition. The name put him, Donald Trump, at the very center of the brand. With a new name for his company, Donald also began to build a new image for himself. He moved from Queens to a small apartment in Manhattan, placing himself in the heart of the city's power and influence. He started to frequent the most exclusive nightclubs, like Studio 54, where he could meet famous and powerful people. He understood that in Manhattan, who you knew was just as important as what you knew. He began to actively seek the attention of the press. He wanted his name and his picture in the newspapers, especially in prestigious publications like the New York Times. He was not just a builder, he was marketing himself as a celebrity. This focus on branding and self-promotion was very different from his father's style. Fred Trump was a private man who built his fortune quietly. He avoided the spotlight and focused on his work. Donald, on the other hand, craved the spotlight. He believed that publicity, whether good or bad, was a powerful tool. He wanted the world to know who he was and what he was doing. He started to cultivate relationships with journalists, giving them exciting stories about his grand plans for the city. He presented himself as a bold and daring young developer who was going to change the skyline of New York. This strategy was brilliant. By making himself famous, he made his projects famous. The name Trump started to become a brand that stood for luxury, wealth, and success. When people heard about a new Trump building, they immediately associated it with opulence and high quality. This was the beginning of the Trump brand as we know it today. He was not just selling apartments or hotel rooms, he was selling a lifestyle. He was selling the idea that if you lived in a Trump building, you were part of an exclusive and glamorous world. This fusion of real estate and celebrity was his unique innovation, and it would become the key to his incredible rise. In the early 1970s, Donald Trump finally got the attention from the New York Times that he had been seeking. But, it wasn't the kind he wanted. The Department of Justice filed a major lawsuit against him and his father. The government accused the Trump Organization of racial discrimination, claiming that they refused to rent their apartments to African American families. This was a very serious charge that threatened to ruin the reputation of the family business. It was his first major public controversy, and honestly, it was a huge test for the young developer. Most lawyers advised him to settle the case quietly, just to make the problem go away. However, Donald Trump refused to settle. He believed that settling was a sign of weakness and would look like an admission of guilt. He wanted to fight back. It was during this time that he met a man who would become one of his most important mentors, the lawyer Roy Cohn. Cohn was a famous and feared attorney, known for his aggressive and, ruthless tactics. He had a simple piece of advice for Trump. When you are attacked, hit back 10 times harder. This advice resonated deeply with the lessons Donald had learned from his father about being a killer. He immediately hired Cohn to represent him. Following Cohn's advice, Trump didn't just defend himself, he went on the attack. He filed a massive $100 million countersuit against the government, accusing them of making false claims. This was a bold and audacious move that stunned many people. The countersuit was ultimately unsuccessful, but it sent a clear message. Donald Trump was not someone who would back down from a fight. The legal battle was long and messy, but in the end, they reached a settlement. The agreement did not require the Trumps to admit any wrongdoing, which Trump saw as a major victory. He had stood his ground, and in his eyes, he had won. This experience taught Donald Trump a lesson that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. Never admit you are wrong, never apologize, and always fight back as hard as you can. Roy Cohn became his lawyer and close advisor for the next 15 years. Cohn taught him how to use the legal system as a weapon and how to manipulate the media to his advantage. This early battle with the government hardened his resolve and really reinforced his belief in his own instincts. It showed him that even negative publicity could make him seem strong and defiant. He had faced his first major crisis and had come out of it feeling more powerful than ever. With the lawsuit behind him, Donald Trump turned his full attention to conquering Manhattan. His first major target was a property owned by the bankrupt Penn Central Railroad. The railroad company was in deep financial trouble and had to sell off its assets. One of these assets was the old, run-down Commodore Hotel, located next to Grand Central Station. The location was fantastic, but the hotel itself was losing money and was in terrible condition. While other developers saw a failing building, Trump saw a golden opportunity. He envisioned transforming the old hotel into a modern, gleaming glass tower that would be a symbol of a new New York. To make this happen, Trump needed to be more than just a builder. He had to be a master negotiator and a political player. He used his father's extensive political connections to get meetings with the most powerful people in the city, including the mayor. He had a grand vision, and he was very persuasive. He argued that his project would bring jobs and money to a city that was struggling financially. He needed the city to give him a huge tax break to make the project possible. It was a long and difficult process, but he lobbied officials relentlessly, charming some and pressuring others until he got what he wanted. In 1976, he finalized the deal. He secured the rights to redevelop the site, and crucially, he received a 40-year tax abatement from the city, a deal that was unheard of at the time. With the financing in place, he began construction. He partnered with the Hyatt hotel chain, and together, they transformed the old Commodore. They covered the old brick building with a sleek, reflective glass facade. When it opened in 1980 as the Grand Hyatt, it was an instant success. The hotel was beautiful, modern, and highly profitable. It was Donald Trump's first major victory in Manhattan, and it proved that he could handle massive, complex projects. The Grand Hyatt project was a game-changer for Donald Trump. It established him as a serious player in the world of Manhattan real estate. He had taken a huge risk on a failing property and turned it into a spectacular success. He had proven that he could navigate the treacherous world of New York City politics and come out on top. The project made him a lot of money, but more importantly, it gave him the credibility and the confidence he needed to pursue even bigger dreams. He had made his mark on the city skyline, and he was just getting started. His name was now associated with bold vision and successful execution. Even as he was working on the Grand Hyatt, Donald Trump had his eyes on an even bigger prize. Ever since he was a child visiting Manhattan with his father, he had dreamed of building a magnificent tower on Fifth Avenue, one of the most famous and expensive streets in the world. This was the ultimate location, the heart of luxury shopping and high society. He found the perfect spot, the site of the Bonwit Teller department store. An elegant but aging building at the corner of Fifth Avenue and 56th Street. He knew that this was where he would build his masterpiece, a building that would carry his name. Getting the site was not easy. The parent company of Bonwit Teller was not initially interested in selling. But Donald Trump was incredibly persistent. He contacted the company again and again, making his case and showing his determination. He never gave up. Finally, after years of trying, his persistence paid off, and they agreed to sell him the building and the valuable air rights above it. Now that he had the location, he faced another huge challenge, getting the city's approval to build his tower. He had to go before the same approval committees that had blocked some of his other plans in the past. Remembering his past failures, like the blocked rail yard project, he took a new approach. Instead of just trying to push his plans through with brute force, he used a more sophisticated strategy. He hired a well-respected architect to design a stunning 58-story tower with a unique, jagged glass facade. He emphasized the beauty and quality of the design. He highlighted the support of famous architects and tastemakers, arguing that his building would be an architectural gem that would enhance the city. He presented the project not just as a profitable venture, but as a gift to New York. Despite some opposition, his new strategy worked, and the project was approved. Construction on Trump Tower began, and it quickly became the most talked-about project in the city. The building was designed to be the ultimate symbol of luxury. It had a 6-story atrium with a waterfall, polished pink marble, and gleaming brass. It would have expensive shops, exclusive offices, and some of the most luxurious apartments in the world. The completion of Trump Tower in 1983 was a monumental achievement. It was the physical embodiment of his brand and his ambition. It stood tall on Fifth Avenue, a glittering monument to his success. It was more than just a building. It was a statement. Donald Trump had arrived. While Donald Trump was busy building his real estate empire in Manhattan, his personal life was also taking a dramatic new turn. In 1976, he met a woman named Ivana Zelnichkova. Ivana was not from New York high society. She was a beautiful and ambitious model from Czechoslovakia, which was then part of the communist Eastern Bloc. She was a former competitive skier who had a strong will and a sharp mind. They met in a popular New York restaurant, and Donald was immediately impressed by her beauty, her charm, and her strong personality. She was not just a pretty face, she was his equal in ambition. Their romance moved quickly, and they were married on April 9, 1977. Their wedding was a glamorous event held at a church on Fifth Avenue, a sign of their rising status in the city. About 9 months later, their first child, Donald Jr., was born. They would go on to have 2 more children together, Ivanka and Eric. Their marriage was more than just a personal union, it was a partnership. Ivana was not content to be a stay-at-home wife. She wanted to be involved in the business, and Donald gave her major responsibilities within the Trump organization. He saw her talent and her drive and put them to work. Ivana became a key figure in building the Trump brand. She had an impeccable eye for design and luxury. Donald put her in charge of managing the interior design of Trump Tower, and her elegant taste was a major reason for its success. The pink marble, the shiny brass, and the overall feeling of opulence were all part of her vision. Later, she would go on to manage some of Trump's most important properties, including the Plaza Hotel and one of his casinos in Atlantic City. She was a tough and demanding boss who worked long hours and expected perfection. Together, Donald and Ivana became the ultimate power couple of the 1980s. They were constantly in the newspapers and magazines, their glamorous lifestyle a source of public fascination. They owned a huge apartment in Trump Tower, a mansion in Connecticut, and a massive estate in Florida. They were symbols of the wealth and excess of the 1980s. Their partnership was a powerful combination of his deal-making and her style. They worked together to build the Trump empire and to promote the Trump name. Ivana played a crucial role in shaping the image of luxury and success that became so central to the brand. Their family life and their business life were completely intertwined, creating a powerful and famous dynasty. By the mid-1980s, with the spectacular success of Trump Tower, Donald Trump had achieved his goal. He was no longer just a real estate developer from Queens. He was a full-blown celebrity, one of the most famous men in America. Trump Tower was not just his home and his office. It was a tourist attraction. People came from all over the world to see the magnificent building and to catch a glimpse of the man who built it. He had successfully merged the worlds of business and entertainment. He was as famous as a movie star, but his stage was the New York City skyline. His fame was built on a carefully crafted image of success. He was the man with the golden touch, the ultimate winner who could turn any project into a profitable success. The media couldn't get enough of him. He was on the cover of magazines, he was a frequent guest on television talk shows, and he even published a best-selling book in 1987 called The Art of the Deal. In the book, he shared his secrets for success, presenting himself as a master negotiator who always came out on top. The book made him even more famous and cemented his reputation as a business genius in the public mind. This celebrity status was incredibly valuable for his business. The name Trump was now a brand that could be sold. He started to put his name on more than just buildings. There were Trump casinos in Atlantic City, the Trump shuttle airline, and many other products. People were willing to pay a premium for anything with the Trump name on it because they associated it with luxury and success. He understood that his fame was his most valuable asset. He continued to cultivate his relationship with the media, always ready with a bold quote or a story about his latest spectacular deal. He was a master of self-promotion. Looking back at his early career, from his father's lessons to the completion of Trump Tower, a clear pattern emerges. Donald Trump's rise was fueled by a unique combination of family influence, relentless determination, and an incredible talent for publicity. He took the foundation his father gave him and built something much larger and much more public. He learned to be tough from his father and disciplined at military school. He learned to fight from Roy Cohn. And he learned how to build a brand by making himself the star of his own story. The completion of Trump Tower wasn't the end of his story, but the beginning of his life as a global celebrity, a role that would eventually lead him to paths no one could have ever imagined.